Good morning. Hey, it's Sunday. Aranka's on YouTube. Must be Sunday. So, I just hope everybody's okay. Of course, our fire news is pretty distressing. This is now over 100,000 acres. But it looks like they are saving everything up on Mount Lemmon, so it looks like my chalet is okay. Of course, that would be lovely. However, what is distressing for me, because those who know me well know that I am ready to fly across half the universe within 10 minutes if somebody says, hey, you want to go somewhere? So one of the things that has happened lately is that several people have asked me that I mentioned in an earlier video that I wanted to be a Weltbummler, which is a globetrotter, when I was an adult. So people who don't know me extremely well would not know that I actually did something about that later on. So I'm going to jump to that. And for those of you who did not see it in the previous video, we have a hummingbird visiting. So if you hear chirp chirp, that's not me. That's the hummingbird. Anyway, in one of my earlier stories, like I said, I was asked as a little girl, what would you like to do when you grow up? And my mother said, I shot this out and said, I'm going to be a Weltbummler. Well, I was chastised about 100,000 times for something so stupid. I also did it in class, and that was the teacher who didn't like me, who said, Weltbummler, Weltbummler, kannst du doch gar nicht. That's not possible. You know, you should become a nurse or a hairdresser or, you know, marry some nice pig farmer. And I was thinking, oink, oink, no, I don't think so. But anyway, I got in trouble for that. And what was interesting, years later, after I had emigrated to the United States, when I was, this is like a vague memory, I do believe I married this very sweet American guy. He was a lot older. I was 21. He had been married, so he had a little kid, and that's turned out to be a real bonus because now I have a child. However, Paulie is what I called him, Paul. He's a very lovely man, but it was just, it would have never worked. I would have made him unhappy, and I probably would have turned into an alcoholic and drank myself to death by the time I was 40. It was just such a ridiculous notion that the two of us could get along. And let me just give you a couple of examples. So one time, the sweet man said to me, what would you like to do for your birthday? Let's do something special. How about we drive to the Ozarks? And I went, yay, that's great. I lived in Kansas City, Missouri, so you know, hop, skip, and a jump, and you're in the beautiful Ozarks at the Lake of the Ozarks. Well, we get down there, and it's raining. And I went, oh, you know what? I was sort of hoping for sunshine. And he said, well, what are you going to do? What are we going to do about it? I said, well, we'll drive. And he said, what do you mean drive? I think we'll go south. Isn't the sun sort of usually in the south? Let's just keep going. This was one of his favorite stories that he told everybody. Do you know what she made me do? I didn't know how to drive at that point. She made me drive all the way to Mexico. We went to Laredo, and then she said, well, if we're this far, we might as well go across the border. I've never been to Mexico. And so he thought that that was just terrible. I thought it was great. We got to a new country that I'd never been to, and oh my God, yeah, the sun was shining there. So not too long after that, I don't know what possessed Paul to do that, but he found this beautiful leather diary that somebody had given me when I lived in England, and I used to be very conscientious about it. I wrote something in there about every day, and one of them was my wish list. And my wish list said that someday I wanted to go to Africa on safari, to go to India to see beautiful tigers. I wanted to go to a place called the Valley of the Flowers in India, which has an incredible amount of wildflowers. I wanted to go to Nepal. I wanted to go to Australia. And then I threw in Ulaanbaatar, but I didn't say it was in Mongolia. I just said Ulaanbaatar. And then it said that I wanted to go to Lake Baikal, but it didn't say where it was. Anyway, he found this, and I think poor Paul just overloaded. He confronted me with it. I couldn't believe he would do this, that he would actually crack open my diary. I was very, very hurt. But what happened next made me realize that he was a really lovely man, but we couldn't be together because our goals and desires and dreams were diametrically opposed to each other, and I needed to move on. This is what he said. Aranka, we're going to have to talk about this because, you know, what you have in there, that is for rich people, and we're poor. And I said, poor? Are you kidding? My mother works, I work, you work. We have a house. We have a 4-bedroom Cape Cod beautiful house with a big lot. We're not poor, we have a car. We have an indoor toilet, for Christ's sake, and a shower. We have 3 bathrooms. That's not poor. And he said, well, you're not willing to deal with reality. What you want to do is not possible, and you need to come down to earth and realize that those desires and dreams will only make you unhappy because you will never be able to do that. And I was transported back to being a little kid where a teacher was chastising me for a stupid dream and telling me how, you can't do that. And I thought, he's supposed to be this person that is my best friend, and how can he not understand that that's what I want? And yeah, it might take me a year or two, like maybe 30 years, I don't care. But sooner or later, yes, I will be doing this. So I decided that, no, there were other issues, of course. I mean, I wouldn't have left him just for that. So I, a little while later, I said, you know what, I don't feel good about this. I always thought I would get married and I'd stay with that person forever, but I need a divorce. And he was just stunned. He said, what do you mean? No, what do you want me to do? What is it that you don't get? And I said, look, Polly, this isn't going to work. We're so different. I need to get a divorce. Well, I'll change. What do you want me to do? And I said, no, I don't want you to change. You're fine just the way you are, but not for me. And you have to admit, I'm not really right for you either. And that evening, one of his friends visited us. I remember this guy because he wore something called a shark skin suit. And I thought it was amazing because that fabric, depending on which direction you looked, it almost looked like a beautiful snake skin that changed color, like a rainbow boa. And I thought, wow, this is the most amazing fabric. But somehow, those two were talking, and I came into the living room, and he said, I heard that you're unhappy and that you want to get a divorce. And I said, yeah, I feel terrible, but I need to not be in this marriage. And this guy looked at me and he said, you know what, I really like you, and actually I think you're one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, but you are so weird. He said, we've just been talking about this. Lake Baikal, what is that? Where is it? I said, it's in Siberia. It's the deepest lake in the world. And it's real clear and clean. And he said, what? What's it? I said, it's called Lake Baikal. And he just shook his head and he said, and where's this again? Siberia. Siberia? What do you mean? And I thought, oh, Lord. I said, you know where Russia is, right? Like when you go to the top, like you're going to fall off the, the edge of the world. It's up there somewhere. And he said, what? Oh, no, you don't want to go there? And I said, yeah, I do. And he said, but why? And I said, well, why not? It's there. I'd like to see it. And then Paul said, yeah, and tell him the other one that I don't know how to pronounce and that I don't know where that is either. And I said, oh, you mean Ulaanbaatar? And so his friend laughed and he said, oh, that sounds like a disease. Have you had Ulaanbaatar lately? And he said, you are weird. You are weird. Where is that? And what is it? Is it really a town? And my mind is going, Americans. Do they know that there's this other big world out there? Or do they only teach in the U.S. what is close to Kansas City, Missouri? They know where New York is. They know where San Francisco is. But wow, this is amazing. They don't know anything like that. And then I thought, well, you have to think about it. America is huge. In Europe, you can live in France and you're in a foreign country in a half an hour. Everything is close by and cultures are very different. Where here, you can't even drive within a day or two to get to the border. You have to fly. And Americans are at another disadvantage. They get 1 or 2 weeks vacation. I'll try that in Europe. I mean, all my friends that live over there, whether it's France or Germany, Switzerland, Norway, they have between 5 and 6 weeks vacation. As an American, if you have 2 weeks, you're lucky, but it'll take you a day or two to just go somewhere. It'll cost an arm and a leg. So maybe that's why there is not a lot of knowledge. And so then his friend said, well, is there any place that I might have heard of that you want to go? And I said, well, what about Tahiti? And he went, oh, now you're talking the half-naked girls with the hula skirts. And I'm thinking, really, is that what you would say, half-naked? I said, what makes you think they're naked? And he said, well, don't they just have a flower wreath and so they cover up their nipples? And I said, wow, is that really what you think? I said, no, that's not it. And he said, well, I don't know. We went to the Nelson Atkins Art Gallery one time, and there were these paintings that were supposed to be of some Frenchman. So I'm thinking, oh, great, he's talking about Paul Gauguin. And he said, and they were sort of chunky-like women with really big boobs, and they had black, beautiful hair, and they just had on this piece of fabric around their waist. And I said, those are paintings by Paul Gauguin. The women do not walk around on Maria and Bora Bora and the island of Tahiti bare-breasted. No. And he said, well, it was like that in the painting. And I said, you know what? An artist can depict something however they wish. That doesn't mean people actually do that. Well, anyway, I'd like to, I go there. So how do you get there? And I said, well, Kansas City. So I said, do you know where this is? Well, no, I guess not. I said, you know where Hawaii is, right? He said, yes. I said, oh, just keep going south. And he said, oh, great, and then you fall off the edge. I said, well, yeah, that's what you all used to think, and we did too. But no, before you fall off the edge, you would end up in Australia and or New Zealand. Oh, okay, so it's like way out there. I said, yeah, it's a group of islands. Just think of Hawaii and then keep going. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, wow, I don't fit in. My teacher was right. I'm weird. I do not fit in at all. And I thought, well, I love Pauli in my own way, but as my friend and my husband and a lifelong partner, no. This is just never, ever, ever gonna work. So that next day I told my mother, of course, I brought her over. She lived with us, and I said, hey, Mama, you know what? And she said, okay, what are you up to? I can tell the little wheels are turning up there. What are you doing? And I said, I'm going to divorce Paul because I don't think this is going to work. My mother looks at me and she says, Well, it's about time. I wondered how long it was going to take you to figure out that this doesn't work. I said, she said, isn't there some American thing about a round peg or something in a square box or something? I'm not sure that I get it, but it doesn't fit. And this doesn't fit. She said, yeah, you know, this, I don't know what you were doing or what you were thinking, but let's just get it over with. So, of course, that's what I did. And like I said, the wonderful thing is that Stevie, his son, and I are very good friends, which is wonderful. And both my ex-husband and Stevie's mother, they're both dead. So that's nice that, you know, I can be there for him. And he really is lovely. So years, you know, things go by. I live in Kansas City, which was lovely, by the way. It's beautiful. It has more fountains than any other city in the United States, and it's very pretty. Then I take off and I go to India, and I lived in India. Did a little bit of traveling, but not a whole lot. And then, of course, I come back to the United States, and some 7, almost 8 years later, I married this very sweet American. Enter Frank. And we had been together for almost 20 years. I inherited some money very unexpectedly from my uncle. And Frank said, what are you going to do with it? I said, well, I would really like to buy us a beautiful log cabin on at least 20 acres. And he said, oh, that'll be great. So I drive up to Lake Tahoe and I go, oh, excuse me, hello. What I've got is like a good down payment. I am not going to drive 3.5, 4 hours or longer only to have a neighbor so close that if I lean out my log cabin, I can probably touch their wall. No. So I looked and looked, and there was nothing that I could afford. I mean, there were beautiful cabins, but they were so close together. That wasn't my idea. My idea was maybe 40 acres and a tiny little log cabin. Couldn't find it. So then I thought, okay, I've always wanted to travel. Yay! So I said, Frankie, I said, what do you think? Well, how would you feel if I left once a month to go on a short trip? Oh, great. That would be wonderful. I said, will you take care of my kitties? Of course. Frank was a lot younger, so of course, you know, he was working. And so about a week or two later, he said, you know, I've thought about this. And I feel nervous about you being in Nepal and India and Japan and South Africa and God knows where else you're going to go, because I had been recovering from Lyme disease, which almost killed me because I walked around with it, ended up bedridden because nobody could figure out what was wrong. And he said, you know, I feel nervous about you being by yourself. So guess what? I talked to Victor, that was our boss, that I also worked for him for a long time. And I told him that I wanted a year off because I don't want you to travel by yourself. And I went, are you kidding? For real? And he said, yes. And he said, yes. So we had my friend Steve and his partner come and move into our house. Frank and I spent a whole year going all over the globe. It was absolutely spectacular. When I came back, I worked for Victor again, but then when I was 59, I went, okay, oh, what's wrong with this picture? I thought, no, I don't want to work anymore. I started working when I was 6 years old, and when I ran away from home and went to England, it was wonderful, but I worked like 18 hours a day. Every other Wednesday was my day off, so I thought, I think I've worked enough. So I talked to Frank and I said, you know what I want to do? I want to quit work on my 60th birthday and I want to travel. And he went, that's great. You should do that because I'm still working and I want to continue to work. And for 6 months, I looked at all the places I wanted to go, you know, list this long. I looked at hotel groups which had good programs where you could end up with free rooms or upgraded rooms. I looked at airlines, and the best ones out of San Francisco actually turned out to be United. Back then they had non-stops to London, Paris, Rome, Frankfurt. They had non-stops down to Australia, and so yeah. I had a party with my girlfriends, and I said, I have an announcement to make. And one of them said, oh God, what is she doing now? I mean, do I really want to hear this? I said, yes, you do. So, well, what is it? I said, I'm going to quit working on my 60th birthday. And they went, what? You? You work more than two of us put together. What the hell are you going to do with all your time? And I heard Frank's voice coming out of the background from us all. She's going to travel, you know, the Weltbummler girl. And they went, oh my God, really? I said, yeah. I made a deal with Frank. I'm going to go somewhere once a month, never longer than a week. And he has agreed to, I no longer bred and showed Persian cats, but I had 2 kitties. He was going to take care of the cats. You know, what a guy. And I said, well, the other thing is that by the time I'm 65, I want to be a million-mile flyer with United. And everybody cracked up. They said, all right, Aranka, come here. Can we reel you back in? Which universe have you gone to? Where are you floating? What are you doing? Are you sitting on a cloud? How many miles do you have now? I said, oh, I don't know, maybe 25,000. And one of them said, well, there's no excuse because we know you're good at math. So, really? And you're going to be a million-mile flyer when you're 65? I said, yes. And they all went, well, that's never going to happen. I said, okay. Yeah. You know, maybe not, but let's just see. 3 months before my 65th birthday, I called all my girlfriends and I said, we're going to have a party. We're going to have a party. And one of them said, okay, why? What's going on? I said, I'm going to celebrate my 65th birthday early. And she went, oh, wait a minute. Wait one cotton picking minute. You mean to tell me that you just got that little card from United that says million-mile flyer? And I said, oh, crap, you figured it out. She said, I can't believe you did it. She said, that's great. So that's what happened to a little girl that wanted to be a globetrotter. And then I was going to have 2 million miles by the time I was 70. But that didn't work because I got breast cancer. I was very, very sick. And then Frank died. And so everything was put on hold. I didn't become a 2 million miler until I was 75. And so the 3 million that is out there, now I have like 2.2 million. At this rate, I just found out I cannot go to London in September because once I get there, I have to be in self-quarantine for 2 weeks. Well, that's not going to work. So maybe the 3 million miler will elude me. However, I have about another 700,000 with airlines that I had to take when United didn't go somewhere. So that's my consolation prize that, well, I'm almost close. But I just wanted you to know that sometimes when I decide I want to do something, it might take many, many moons to actually do it. But I did it. And so that was my big dream. And that is my story for today. And I love you. Let me put this down so I can say a proper goodbye. And I love you for watching and listening. And I do hope that you really like this story. Thank you so much. I love you.